Hello and welcome to this next video here. I am drawing on a gessoed piece of watercolor paper, and what I'm drawing is a potato, a tate, who is anthropomorphized, wearing armor, holding a banner. I'm using acrylic inks here. As you can see, the gessoed paper doesn't absorb the water, so it leaves almost like an oily effect, a smeary, blendy effect. And I add different colours, greens, yellows. This is overall quite a brightly coloured painting, which is not so bad. One of the things I've found is that if you start off nice and bright, you can always dull it down. But it is hard to start with a dull thing and make it bright. At least because I'm not using oil paints, so I know that there's the grisé technique for oil painting and other types of painting too, but I'm not following that technique. Now, the reason I'm drawing a tate in armor is because for a while I've had an idea, which is very silly, of a setting or a world populated by anthropomorphic vegetables. It's not groundbreaking. It's not very clever. It owes quite a lot to Beatrix Potter and to Jill Barklam, both of whom painted anthropomorphic animals in their stories. And it's not that much of a stretch of creativity to say, well, what about instead of animals, it was vegetables? And it changes the character of the idea, I think, enough. Plus the fact that I'm not telling stories here which are cozy, warm, cottagey sort of things. I might, but I'm not currently doing that. I think the juxtaposition of cute, whimsical, silly characters and the 100 Years of War is, I think it's funny, basically. I think I like that. The idea of things that are silly and whimsical being treated in a way that is realistic-ish and not entirely serious, but not sweet. I don't know what the right words for the idea is exactly, and I've found that it's difficult to communicate the idea. People mostly seem to have to just get it or not get it. I'm wondering, at this point, if I should be using a pen maybe, but I've committed to using the brush. And I really like having a reason to use the Series 7 brush. Doing this kind of ink and wash, I really enjoy, the transparent colours and then adding the ink at the end to outline some things or darken some areas as necessary. I like lines, I like outlines. I grew up on some very old, out-of-date comics. So I think that was formative for me. Here I'm trying some coloured pencils, but because this paper has been coated with acrylic paint in a good layer after the gesso, the surface is too slippery. It doesn't have a tooth like the gesso on its own and then the acrylic inks would have. So I gave up on that. A lot of the time I'm experimenting because I want to try new things. I want to see, I like mixing the coloured pencil with the paint. I've done that a couple of times lately and I've enjoyed it. But just there was too thick a layer of acrylic paint and it wasn't behaving. There was no friction. There was no tooth to the surface. So I just had to do it the old-fashioned way with a brush. I wanted to keep this painting very loose, kind of smeary. I'm starting to regret that now, but at the time it made sense. I wanted to do it like this because when you see things in real life and you're in a bit of a state, you know, you're exhausted or hungry or tired or panicked, or you don't see things quite right. And I always like painting things in a way that reflects that, because I spend a lot of time not being able to perceive things quite right. And so I like to paint in a way that reflects the fact that I rarely see things properly. My mental state is not always conducive to accurately observing the world. Probably why I like fantasy stuff so much, eh?